Sunday, and welcome to Let's Talk About You. This is your host, Camilla Francis. I am so glad that you're spending your Sunday afternoon with me here at Let's Talk About You. So I'm just going to put out two disclaimers. One, my voice. Bear with me with my voice. It was total excitement is why I no longer have a voice. And the other disclaimer is as we get into our conversation with our phenomenal guest today, we're also going to be referencing the movie that we spoke about, Sinners, and everything that it means to us and how points can help in our everyday lives. No, this is not for monetary anything, it's just for edification and information. And without further ado, I'm bringing back because, hey, once is nice. Hey, let's do it twice, right? I'm bringing back, I'm calling her Dr. Carey Williams. All it in existence, there's life and death in the power of the tongue. And my tongue is powerful.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Welcome back, Miss Williams. Thank you for saying yes once again, and let's talk about you. And when you were here the last time, it was just such an impactful show. And on the sidelines, other than the comments that you would see, so many people had questions to me with regards to, trauma. We don't think about trauma in our everyday lives, but it's so prevalent. And their thing was, it's so prevalent now. And I smiled because it's not now. I guess now is when we're paying attention to it. And we're being more open to talk about it because it's definitely not prevalent now. And even before we get into our talk, I just want to shout out my producer, my daughter, Kiana Francis Burkett. Yesterday, she won her second Emmy for the new Boston, New England regional news broadcasting at ABC News. I can't even remember the affiliate, but she won yesterday, Emmy number 2, and I'm so happy, hence my voice.
Congratulations to everyone.
I know, right? Yeah, so she's done great things, not just behind the scenes on Let's Talk About You and Let's Talk Minute. You know, I'm just so proud. I'm proud mama.
As you should be. As you should be. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm excited, and 5 reasons. One, I'm excited because we're doing this again. I'm excited you said yes. I'm excited that we can bring forth things that we enjoy, going down, sitting down and watching a movie. And I'm excited that we can bring it to our everyday life and have a professional explain the pros and cons of our everyday lives relating to things that we do. We're just sitting down and watching a movie. And this is like twofold for me. One, there are triggers in watching things in movies. It gives you the highs, the lows, of emotion. And 2, you don't always go into a movie to learn something. You just go to de-stress. For me, I always break it down to the T and analyze a movie. So I'm excited that you're here to analyze and discuss and bring forth information to our listening audience with regards to sinners and how we can take their trauma, dealing with our everyday trauma, and to make us better persons, to take us from where we are to where we need to be.
Right. It's an amazing movie. It is an amazing movie. Like you said, I go to the movies to kind of suspend my disbelief and just go and just be in it. And this was a different movie experience. It made me proud. It made me sad. It made me happy. It made me definitely sad again. And then I felt revenge at the end. So that's some of the emotions that were brought out watching a movie about, spoiler alert, vampires.
Yeah.
Never would have thought. And it does have talk. It is about trauma, those Smoke and Stacked had trauma throughout their whole life. Throughout their whole life. And it shows how one person can take that trauma and not address it, but be more aware of it, as opposed to the other one who just carried it in anger. One carried it in love, one carried it in anger. And then the symbolism of the red and the blue, blue is peaceful and calm, and red is anger.
I thought I broke it down, but let's break down some more what you're talking about with the red and the blue, and who were the characters that wore those colors, the red and the blue, and the symbolism of those colors. Let's discuss that, because I didn't think about the colors.
Yeah, Smoke wore red. And Smoke was the one who was angry. Smoke is the one that ended up being the vampire. And then Stack had blue. And that blue is calm, peaceful. He was the one who didn't want to become a vampire. He wanted to be with his love. He could have took the trauma and ended up like Smoke, yet he was his own individual, dressed it, and was peaceful.
Yes. Oh, and I thought I analyzed it, because my thinking of the two characters, we're discussing sinners in addition to dealing with our everyday trauma and the symbolism of it. And we're talking about Michael B. Jordan's characters, Smoke and Stack. What I got from those two characters, I didn't think about the clothing, and you're so right about colors, because my dad, he cannot handle the color red. Every time he sees red, he gets agitated and upset. He's like, I just can't take that color. It reminds me of blood and that this and that. We can't do red. So it can be mauve, a deeper color, a brighter color, but he cannot handle red at all. And you're right, red is anger, because I can see the frustration in him, my dad, when he sees the color red.
Yes, and blue is peaceful. And as you can see on the poster, Smoke has red, Stack has blue. And that was, we didn't even know at the beginning of the movie what that symbolizes. We didn't know their story. And going back to our real life, we don't know other people's stories. So sometimes we have to sit back and listen to get to know what people are going through, so we can at least be a venting ear, or just someone. Sometimes people just need someone to listen. And it's not about fixing trauma, it's about recognizing it. To say, that wasn't right. That wasn't right, how you grew up. Or what you're dealing with.
So it's just about sometimes recognizing where you're at to where you need to be. Just recognition.
And it's okay not to be okay. Everybody wants to. Yeah, it's okay to not be okay, because life sometimes it's not okay. And again, we're going back to the movie. They had to leave Mississippi, Mississippi or Alabama, Mississippi, to go find their fortune, because where they were at was trauma. And they tried to outrun their trauma. Guess what? It didn't work.
Because no matter how much you run, you're still you.
You're still you. You can change locations all day long. You can move from Kentucky to the Caribbean to St. Thomas. If you have not addressed your trauma, it will still follow you. And that's what they did. And they ended up coming back. Yeah.
The one main thing that I got from those two characters, it was someone finding themselves, you dealing with yourself. Because some days we could be erratic, some days we can be calm, some days we make sense, and other days it's like it makes no sense. We're just so impulsive, we don't think about the consequences, and we fight our inner demons, we fight our inner selves, our inner insecurities. And that's what I got from the two brothers, and the fighting back and forth. It was just so many times we fight ourselves back and forth. Should I not? Because even like the beginning, when the brothers Smoke and Stack, one wanted to start immediately, the other one wanted to wait it out. Let's see how things go. And these are the things that we fight with making a decision. Should I make that decision? Should I wait a little bit?
And it's perfect symbolism because they're twins. They're twins. And so when you're talking about the things that we fight as people, it is basically two twins. You know, if you think about it, we're fighting. It's not therapy, you know, is based on all theories and Freud and everything, but it's the ego and the super ego, and we're the id. So we have that. We used to grow up, showing my age, growing up, and there'd be cartoons, and there'd be the devil on one side and an angel on one side, and then they're talking, and you have to decide. That's human. That's the human experience, and it's what we choose to, which side we choose to listen to can dictate our day. And it's going back to even the movie. You see the symbolism. They're both fighting. They're fighting, you know, fighting. He wants it right away. The other one says, let's wait. Smoke is like, we're going to do it. Let's do it. Stack is like, let's wait. Let's wait. And unfortunately, as you can see, the red or the anger won out. And then it creates a whole other situation that they're in.
But the one thing, it's not the one. I'm going to try to stop saying the one thing. When they decided to go forward, isn't it something that, you know, even when bad things happen, it was something that had to happen so we can learn, we could get that message, that lesson in it.
That,
It may not be the way that we want it to happen because they just wanted to have a good old time and make some money.
Yeah, and they can plan for what happened, and that's also in life, and that goes with anxiety, which is, again, it's going back to trauma, because when you're traumatized, you try to control everything, and that leads to anxiety. And you might think of A to Z, like this, I got plan A to Z, but then what's going to happen is going to be Z1. You didn't think about that one. So you can have all these contingency plans, and how life works is the one thing you didn't think about happens. They were thinking about the clan. They were thinking about getting the food, getting it all together. They were thinking about how we're going to get people there. No, they didn't think about vampires. And yes, you know, it's a movie, but that was not in their thing. They had all A through Z, but then there was Z1, and they didn't plan for. And that's life. And yet that is a trauma response too. This movie, it's so full of symbolism and so full of things people can pull from it. But yeah, they planned for everything. They got everybody together. Everybody came. They didn't plan for zombies. Vampires. And that's anxiety, because that's trauma, because you want to control. Because you've been hurt.
And you're right, they didn't plan for, you definitely don't plan for the vampires. But the vampires are our demons, which we all fight. We're all fighting with our own inner demons. And with us fighting our demons, you know, when I had the discussion with Kiana the last time, one thing that I told her was sometimes we don't see the light in our lives. We don't see how good we are because we're not there yet. We're still searching and paddling to figure out right now. And Sammy, one of the main characters, you know, he had a gift. He was so gifted with his voice. He was so gifted with playing the guitar. And he just was so excited to spend some time with his famous cousins. These cousins, they traveled, they're experienced, you know, they evolved, they're worldly. I just want to one time, I just want to play out with them. And it was so exciting for him. He didn't even want to talk about it. Because when they asked him in the village, you know, so where are you playing tonight? He said nothing. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want anyone to talk him out of it. He just wanted to do this one thing. And then the main vampire, you know, even though they were doing the killing and the so forth, he was like, I want you. I came for you. What that said to me was, you know, someone saw see your gift. He didn't see it yet because he wasn't there yet. And he was targeted so he wouldn't progress. He wouldn't go forward. He wouldn't succeed because it was too good for him. We wanted to take that away from you. And then the other part of it would be, like Kiana said, she thought the main vampire was trying to say, oh, I can help you. You know, if you go to my world and you will live on, even though you can't come out and enjoy the light of day, you don't have any choices but to just do certain things. I can help you. So, you know, it's which one would you follow? Which one? Which shoulder?
Right. Well, and it even goes back to because it's Miles Cantone as Sammy, which is this is his first role ever he's ever done, and he did an amazing. He's got a beautiful voice, an amazing job. But then it starts out. We see it's religious trauma, and he couldn't even tell his father what he wanted to do because his father judged. And unfortunately, that's trauma. And it's not, people judge, and like you said, can't see the light. So they try to put it down. So they try to dampen it. And that's Trump, like, not Trump, but like, he couldn't even be his true self. And we have people in our community who can't be their true self because they'll be judged, they'll be traumatized, they'll be victimized. And what Sammy wanted to do is just live. It's just live. And when you talk about the vampire, his name is Riddick. I can't think of his real name, but it's Riddick. He saw Sammy called them when he sang that song, I Lied to You. And that beautiful, where we're going back and forth, Jack O'Connell as Remy. But we're going back and forth and seeing how the music shaped our reality and our music shaped the world. That Remick saw that in Sammy. He was called to him. And Sammy's like, I don't have this talent. And everybody's like, you're pretty good. You're pretty good. And so when Remick, like he said, was like, I came for you. Sammy didn't realize his power. And we as people don't realize our power because we've been told we're not good enough.
And we as people of color were told to buckle down and be humble and don't be seen. Just keep going. You don't want to add any attention to yourself. And I know that is generational trauma because so many times you see the older movies where they just want to get by. They just want to live, make it through that day. You go forward. And now we have our parents, a lot of the parents telling their young sons, if you stop by the police, don't be disrespectful, be humble, be quiet, just answer the questions accordingly. And it's the same thing that what they were told then, they're being told now. Tell me that.
Well, that's an example of my life. My father was a dark-skinned, 6'3", like 200, 300-pound man. And where he grew up, he had to shrink himself. And he was the jolly Black man. He used humor, to make people not feel intimidated because he grew up where he was traumatized for being a 6 foot. I mean, he was very dark skinned. And now that I'm older, and unfortunately he's not here, I would have loved to ask some questions about that because I felt like he shrunk himself. He was a heck of a man, don't get me wrong, but he shrunk himself because of trauma and told we have to be humble. We can't do this, we can't do that. And I changed that with my daughter. I said, you can be anything you want. But it is also a girl, and that's a little bit easier. But like we learn from our parents, and he learned from his mom, you are intimidated. We are living in a place that I knew about Emmett Till before Emmett Till. I knew about Emmett Till when I was 5 or 6, because that traumatized my dad. He was from the north, come down south, traumatized my dad. And he made sure that we knew the history of that. So
See,
yeah.
I didn't know that about him until I was way older. Way old, I think probably even a young adult to learn about that. But you've seen the oppression and how our oppressors have oppressed us, and how even our kinfolk, they have oppressed us, but they've done it out of love because they think it's a form of protection.
They didn't know better.
Right.
You can even go back to the movie when the Asian couple who owned the store.
Yes, Grace and Ken,
Oh,
I think.
yes, I can't. I was like, and then their daughter, but they had to maneuver that too because they were able to sell to the black people and white people,
Yes.
and so they had to assimilate on both sides, and they suffered trauma. And unfortunately, that bond between the Chinese and the African Americans have was kind of separated because the white culture did not want that because there's strength in numbers. And so guess what? We could stop. It's Lee Jun Lee as Grace Chow, which but they still had to maneuver. And her basic principle was family. She wanted to save her daughter.
Yes.
But we as humans want to save our children
Yes.
at any means necessary. As you know, your
By
daughter,
any means
by any
necessary.
means necessary. And so that's what she did. But yeah, it's just it, I love it sounds so bad, but I love trauma in general and trying to inform people about generational trauma. Because even if you're thinking, oh, my life was great, we're still carrying our ancestors' trauma. It can change DNA. That's why it's high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease is so prevalent in our community because of trauma. We've lived under stress. So
I agree. I agree. Our bodies hold on to that stress, and we don't know how to move forward.
and we talked to,
But let's
and
get.
we go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, we have to recognize some of the trauma. And again, this movie is showing that, like, we're looking at and we're getting enjoyment, but no, they lived through a hard time. Even if the vampires didn't come, they were living in Jim Crow.
Yes. Yes. And what I thought the movie was absolutely poetic. They did a phenomenal job. I mean, they should win every form of everything in this movie because they definitely broke it down. Today, now I'm learning about thinking about the colors that it was symbolic as well. It was symbolic that they were in church, and I have sustained church trauma. I could write a book.
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, we all have. I mean, not but like it's a majority. Like church trauma is real. It's real.
Yes, church trauma is real, and I was talking to a young lady. I don't know her, but she made a comment, and I commented on her post, and she was just so angry and frustrated because, and I could tell she sustained church trauma as well. Why are we fighting and we're cleaning and we're cooking and we're working in these hot, um, inhumane conditions for our oppressors? And then on Sundays, they allowed us to go to church and worship. Why, instead of worshiping, why did they gather together to? And as Kiana says, when you're trying to survive, you're not in revolt mode. You're just in, I just need to make it. I just need to survive. But when your oppressor has his foot on your neck, so to speak, you can't even function. But to believe that there's a higher power, and I do believe that
Mhm.
there's a higher power. You need that. That's like an outlet. That's your reprieve. So you can focus and go forward. But so many times we're taught certain things in the churches, and I know there's going to be backlash, but it is what it is. And it's about control and manipulation. And I am to the point that the veil has been revealed, and it is so irritating to listen to some of the things that are said to control you into doing certain things. So when you think you're out of bondage one way from our oppressors, we're still in bondage the other way, because who I think should be helping us because of what we've been taught and it has been passed down. And in the name of religion, it's another way of bondage as well.
Yeah. The meek shall inherit the earth. And that's a great, but like, why do I have to be meek? Why are you judging me? Like,
Yes.
I would like to live my life, judge not yet ye be judged. I can quote scripture all day because again, and so going back to the movie, Sammy couldn't even be his own person.
He couldn't.
He couldn't be his own person because of the judgment. But how great would, if he wasn't judged, he could have played at the juke joint on Saturday and went on Sunday and played. How great would that have been? Because Jesus came to save the sinners, not the saints. And I'm not a saint.
And I think that's one of the reason why they named it sinners. We have all sinned and fallen short. But yet, in the end of the day, God, Jesus convicts, he doesn't condemn. And too many times you're condemned and beaten over the head. And we condemn you and we condemn you. But there's no condemnation. There's
God is
conviction.
love. Yeah, my God don't work like that. My God loves me. And he knows I'm a fool, and God was going to be like, there she go again. Because we all sin.
Yes.
And we've all sinned. We're not going to be perfect until they're putting us in the ground. And they're calling us a was, not a is. And so again, the sinners save the town.
Yes.
If you wanted to talk about the sinners save the town, it wasn't the church. The church would have been like, it's not real. And it's real. We can see it, like this is happening. And so if it wasn't for the sinners, the town would have been destroyed.
Everybody, yep, everyone, there would be no town. You're absolutely right. Everyone would have been dead.
Yeah, and the one who the people looked down on, Smoke and Stack, they knew what they like. Smoke shot somebody in the middle of the street. They were looked at as sinners. And the two bad sinners, one with the vampires, and one saved the town. And one saved the town.
Yeah, and speaking about looking down on, I loved Annie. I loved her. Why did I love her? Because not because she was throwing rocks and bones and doing her concoction. I loved her because she was strong in her faith and her beliefs. And I loved her because one thing that I've learned from my own studies, a lot of things that were practiced by our ancestors before they were oppressed, and their, I won't even say religion because I don't think it was all religion, their spirituality and the way they did things were demonized because it was different from what the oppressors thought it should be. So it was bad, it was wrong. She didn't care what anyone said. She believed in who she was. She believed in her faith. She practiced her faith deeply, but it was never to harm. It was always to help.
Right. And I love it. It's Boom. I know I'm going to mispronounce her name, but she is a beautiful actress, Bumi Musaku, as Annie. And I loved her because it's also a representation of a darker skinned leading Black woman.
Yes. And how
And I
beautiful
just got
we
good.
are.
Yeah, I just because we are going back to trauma. We're told dark-skinned women and darker-skinned people are not as attractive. And you look at her and she is beautiful. And she suffered her own trauma. She lost a baby. Yet she still endured. And that's unfortunately what happens with trauma. Yet, like you said, she was with love. She was about helping people. She could have taken that loss and used her anger and used it because she had some magic. That's what they call it now because they don't understand it. But like you said, when they don't understand things, they demonize things. And it also goes back to our African religion. Africans, are doing things that seem like voodoo and witchcraft, and let's give that those negative connotations, because they
Yeah.
didn't know what's going on and they can control it. And so she, I want to say therapy term, processed her loss. She was still going to grieve for the rest of her life, but she didn't process it in anger. She processed it.
And that's important. So when so let's bring that to our modern day and how to deal with certain things. A lot of times we go through certain issues and losses, and we lash out, and we're upset, and we're mad at the world because this happened, and it could have been avoided. And even as a believer, it could be like, oh, I'm mad at God because, it said that because of what the teachings, and I think that's one of the reasons why people say that they're mad at God based on their teachings. You're supposed to just, this is what it is. And you're not open to, or you're not taught, or you haven't processed in all things. Things are going to happen, and that's a part of life, good and bad. Loss will happen. That's the only thing that's a constant, losses. And it's how we process that loss to take us to the next.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
it's okay to be angry.
yeah, it is okay to be angry, but sometimes we put the anger, I think the anger is done incorrectly because we put it on against other people. We take it out on other people. We take it out on the ones that we love, and we don't know how to deal with ourselves. So give us some tips in internalizing this anger and lashing out, for a lack of a better word, and how people lash out. Because she could have lashed out. She
She could have
didn't.
lashed. She could have lashed out. She could have lashed out a lot against Mary, against Smoke. Like she could have lashed out, and yet she didn't. And when it comes to today, in your processing your trauma, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry, but then you have to look into that anger and think about, why am I angry? I'm sad. We talked about it before. Anger and sadness are cousins. And if you can't get that sadness out, it's going to turn into anger. So when you want to think like, I'm angry, scream. I will go into a car. I will scream into a pillow to get my anger out, my frustration. But then I have to think about like, why am I sad?
So we should
And
take the time and process it.
and process it. And it sounds so corny, but journal. Write your anger out. Talk on the phone. You don't even have to write, just put it into notes. You just put it, because the more we keep it in, the worse it's going to get. Our head is round.
And I think we really, and that's the point I really need to get across. Being upset, I don't know why I'm echoing. Being upset, and the fact that we don't know how to process that anger so we can be better.
People are feel shame when they're angry. Like you said, they take it out on people. Your child could spill the milk and then you're blooping out, you're going off. And it's not about the milk.
Yeah.
You're angry. And then you feel shameful because you took it out on your child. And then now you're like, ugh. And then you like, they were like, oh, I should have done that. But do you ever tell the child or the adult that you got angry? Did you ever apologize? I was angry. It was not about you. It was not about the spilled milk. I was mad because of blah, blah, blah. We don't do that because it's shame. And then we feel guilty because we did that too. So shame and guilt are pretty big. But I'm telling people, no, to get rid of that shame and guilt, admit it.
Yeah, so shame, guilt, anger, and all family, they're all related.
They're all related. Shame is sadness. Shame is
Shame and
sadness. Because, like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. We have to normalize humanity.
Oh, yes.
We
And
have to
emotions are
normalize.
human.
Yeah. We're not robots. We're not AI. We're not AI, and people have experiences. And some people, like, oh, well, such and such had it worse than me. It still doesn't matter. It's your experience. My trauma may not be your trauma, but we've had trauma. And just there's big trauma and little trauma, but it's still trauma.
And we
And
definitely have to talk about it. We have to, and in the normalizing comes conversation, honest conversations. We have to talk about it.
we have to. The way that we've been living society, and you can see it now, it's not working. Everybody's angry.
Yeah.
Everybody's angry, and then like no, because we're sad. Literally, if no one had any trauma their whole life, they had it in 2020. COVID came.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
People forget about that. COVID came, and that was traumatic. We didn't know what was going on. And now, because you never thought we'd living through a pandemic. I never thought that.
Yeah. The unknown was extremely scary. I know that.
And it's still affecting our kids. It's still
Today.
affecting how they're dealing with life. They've got trauma. So we need to talk to our kids about it. That's why there's violence. The violence is on the rise for our youth because we want them to go back to normal. And
What is normal?
they've not processed their trauma.
And the death, unfortunately, of the gentleman in St. Croix, Jordan. He was allegedly killed by this 15-year-old. And I was like, what is it that this child was going through that he thought it was okay? What was he trying to prove? So I'm not justifying, I'm not trying to say it wasn't traumatic, because that loss, it hit the community immensely. Because I know I enjoy watching Jordan's videos. I always thought he was just such the silliest person. But what it is that this 15-year-old was going through that he thought it was okay? You know, he was trying to prove something to someone, maybe I guess himself, and going through for him to do that.
Well, and again, we're just trying to understand. But for someone that age to go out and kill someone, there had to be trauma. He was not a client. I did not know him, but I'm I'm in the States right now, and it's happening here in where I'm at because kids that age don't value life. I've met kids who they're like, I won't, if I live to 21, that's great. And I'm all like, what? 21, your life hasn't even started. Because
Exactly.
it's been shown it's going back to generational trauma.
Yes.
And I'm gonna go back, but these children, and I sound like someone who's like, these children's grandparents may have had addictions, and then they had their children, and now these are the grandchildren. But guess what? This is how the grandparents had their child, and now there's the grandchildren. Well, the grandparents weren't able to care for their children, so now the children went somewhere else, but then the grandparents are now caring for their grandchildren.
True.
And they don't know how to be parents because they were traumatized. But now you have a traumatized grandparent whose the kid's parent are not there raising someone, the grandchild, and it's trauma. It's just
And
a trauma.
because of that generational stigma and trauma, now the whole community is traumatized and mourning this loss, because it's a loss also for that young man's family.
For the family. He was bringing joy.
Yeah, so it's a loss for everyone. This is a total lose, 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 lose for Jordan's family, lose, lose for that young man that's going to spend a long time in jail, and lose, lose for the community. And for us to assess what is it that happened, that this is happening in our small, close-knit community.
Yeah, but it's trauma. Kids don't know the value of life. And it's so sad because if you're raised in not, and I'm not blaming everything on trauma, because sometimes people are just not good people. But if you're raised in a household where you're told you're not going to be anything, how can you believe that you're going to be something? No matter how many people feed into you, your teachers, your principals, trusted adults who are saying, hey, you can be something, they're not going to believe that because I can tell them all day, but they're going to go back to that traumatic household. And how do we fix that? Because people don't like the village anymore. How dare you say my child did this?
Yeah, you're
How
right.
dare you did that? My child didn't do that. I'm like, they're cussing out the teacher. They're cussing. That's not right. And then it's trauma. It's I don't know. If I could figure that out, I'd be a millionaire.
Well, we all work in progress, that I do know. And also to to come back to the movie with the trauma, where Mary, she was the savior, and I think it was Stack like Mary, and because, Smoke, because of the way he felt about her, he lashed out. He made her feel bad. He traumatized her because he knew what it is that they went through. If he was to continue their relationship in the daylight, in the light, there would be no light. So even though he ended up going, living to be the vampire with her, it was still in the dark. They could never have that relationship in the light.
That's power. I mean, woof. And because she was a woman passing as white, like you said, they could not live in the light. Not in that era. Not in that era. So he did try to push her away, but it didn't work. Yet was she the savior because she turned him into the vampire?
True, but she just couldn't leave him because one thing that one of the many thing, one of the huge things that they had the key phrase, "You need to let me in," and she was invited back in, and she was invited back into his life. And and this is also for you. When we go through things, we try to get rid of it because we realize that's not our path. That shouldn't be our path. But then, because of circumstances, we invite it back in. What was the key phrase? Aren't you going to invite me in? I need you to tell me to come in. And that's what we do. We invite the bad sometimes back in, even though we're trying to get away from it.
Yeah. Because negativity is easy. Hope is hard.
Yes, negativity is easy, hope is hard.
Hopefully
You
for
hear
this.
that, folks? I'm here with therapist Carey Williams, and we're talking not only about sinners, we're talking about trauma, dealing with our everyday lives, how to navigate this beautiful thing we call life. And it starts with our mind, and we definitely uh, we're on the track of taking each and every one of your listening audience and those that you're connected to where you are, to where you need to be, one step at a time. So take notes, bring those pads and those pens out. It's going to be good. It's good. What we have here is good.
And sometimes Mary was traumatized by smoke.
Mhm.
And then yet she persevered. She's like, no, you're not getting rid of me because I love you. And that goes with people who are dealing with trauma. You have to have that support where when people try to push you away, if the traumatized person tries to push you away, you may need to be that support and say, I'm not going anywhere. See, you can flip that. She's not going anywhere. I'm going to be here through the hard times. And sometimes when we go through trauma, we just need somebody to be there. They don't need to fix it. They just need to be there. And that's Haley Stanfield as Mary. She's a newlywed. She just got married to Josh Allen, but I'm a football fan. But yeah, she just got married. And so, congratulations. That's sometimes how we have to have that person who's not going to leave you.
But
That's not going to.
when is it time that you're going to say, okay, I love you, but the love isn't enough?
when it starts hurting you, the supporter. Because you can love people from afar and you can still give encouragement, but you don't need to be in the midst of it. I've heard your trauma. Let's process, like, go to a therapist, go to a group setting, go to AA, go to Al Anon, go to NA to start processing your trauma. I can give you the steps, and I'm going to be here when you open your eyes. Just know that I love you from afar because I can't continue to hurt myself.
Yeah.
When it starts hurting you, it's all good till it starts hurting.
And I think sometimes people stay too long in the name of love, and they realize that they don't always realize that they're tearing themselves apart. And to truly love, they have to let go.
Yeah, it's it's going back because that's people pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
But people pleasing is also a symptom of trauma. Because if I do this and I step over and lose myself, these people won't leave me. But no, you just end up getting used. You
And
just end up,
she wanted to please Smoke so much, she decided to go out and confront these people because she was the only safe. She was had the savior syndrome.
yeah,
You
let me
put
go
that out
through
there.
this. And you see what happened to her. She got ate up.
And but she was the only one that got ate up from the back. That was backbiting because even though you and I may seem that we look alike and have something in common, that doesn't mean that I'm for you. I could still bite you in the back, and and that was a message in that scene for me. We could look alike, but I could still bite you in the back.
It don't mean nothing. And
I could
she
still
felt
be the one
comfortable enough
that's
to walk
yours.
away. Yeah, she felt comfortable enough to walk away because they're my peoples. They look like me.
Yes,
And they, like you said, turns her to a vampire. And so we have to know when to walk away. We have to know. And when I was like support, but you have to know if it's people pleasing, you have to decide is it people pleasing or support. And the people pleasing is trauma because you want people to stay.
and she wanted him to stay.
You want them to stay. And ended up destroying her life. Wow, yeah. Yeah. So it's all about processing trauma. And again, this movie, we're going back, is a very good way how people process their trauma. We even go back to Delroy Lindo's character. I can't think of his name.
The musician.
Yeah, the older musician who talked about a lynching, and he talked about the stuff that he witnessed as a black man in Jim Crow. And just think if he had a child, Delroy Lindo's character's DNA has changed. Delta Slim, I couldn't think, Delta Slim.
Yes.
Amazing. Delta Slim's DNA changed when he witnessed that traumatizing thing. So if
Yes.
Delta Slim had a child, guess what? Their DNA has already been changed due to the trauma of Delta Slim.
Mm.
And if Delta Slim didn't process and talk about it with the child, guess what? Now his grandchild has high blood pressure for some reason.
And that's why his pressure, his solace was the bottle.
Which, oh wait, that's going to make a gene where alcoholism is going to be easy in this family. Addiction is going to be easy in this family because it started way up here. And now we're in 2025 and you're wondering, you're Delta Slim's great grandchild, and you're wondering why you're dealing with addiction.
That's good.
It's the truth. Trauma
Yeah.
changes. And so then we have to think, and it's hard, but we have to sometimes go back and look at our family history to process, to see where we're coming from.
Why is it so hard for us to want to do that though? Because it's like they suffered that, they went through that. I'm here now. Let me just move forward.
Me and a colleague were talking about, it's called a family genogram, and I encourage everyone to do this. We had to do it in grad school to get our therapy license. Oh, I'm just getting goosebumps. And it's like, you see the patterns in your family. Because the genogram is you're gonna put addiction, you're gonna put divorce, you're gonna put single parents. You see the pattern. I didn't see it until I saw it, and I was like, oh, my grandmother had a baby at 13, which was my dad, who didn't know his dad. I ended up being a single mom. My dad, it's just, you're like, oh, it starts putting the pieces together, and it's painful. It's painful. We don't want to think our grandparents went through all that, but they were human just like us, and they lived in a difficult era.
Yeah.
Lived in a
Some,
difficult.
sometimes I try to listen to some of the stories that my dad tells, and it's like, okay, I don't always want to hear everything because he had 97, he has gone through.
Oh my gosh,
And I don't always want to hear the stories. And it doesn't mean that, I don't want to learn from it, but it's just
painful.
painful.
It's painful for them to survive, and for us to be here. Imagine all the pain that our ancestors had to go through. Imagine that. And then people wonder why our community and our culture, Black culture, we still are angry, and we're still like, have a chip on your shoulder. Like, slavery happened 400 years ago. It's still affecting me now.
And for sounds like a long time, but even when you see the pictures, when I see the pictures, I'm triggered, and it's like I can't believe. And even certain things, I'm just triggered based on a lot of things that I watch. Even these new things that they have on Facebook and YouTube, these little soap operas, I'm addicted to them and I want to watch them. But it just makes me mad of the injustice, and the relationship injustice, the talking down to, you're because, and the bullying is just so frustrating. And I was like, I know it's all in entertainment, but I can relate. I
Right.
can
Well,
relate.
you can relate, but then like Hollywood, and don't get me wrong, Tyler Perry is amazing, and other people are other producers and other story writers, but we have more than trauma. We don't always have to celebrate. Like, that's why I guess I like Sinners, because it is trauma, but it's like a completely different story. Like, it's a story of Jim Crow.
Well,
I mean,
I think the writers did a phenomenal job with the celebration, especially that music scene where it brought back from the blues to the R&B to the rap and the rock and roll and even the Asian music, and they just did that whole Callaloo John Gumbo of music. That was so powerful. I mean,
so
I was
powerful.
so excited. I got goosebumps. I got teary eyed. I was excited because I saw how we created so much. I was like, look what we did. We did all of that.
That
We did
scene is
all
going
of
to
that.
be that scene is going to be studied in film schools forever. Because in the theater, when I went to go see that, and that scene came on, and he's starting to sing, and I'm like, "What's go?" You could hear a pin drop in that theater. You could hear, because everybody was like, it reminds us, in spite of everything that we've been through, we create magic.
Yes. Yes.
We
And that
create,
even Delta Slim made that point when he talked about the hardship and the murder of his friend. What did he do? He went straight into song.
created the
He
song.
went straight into song.
Yeah. But then I'm
It's
all
like,
like, you should have processed this feeling. But now we're getting to that in this generation.
yes, now. Because we were
Yeah.
told to just hunker down and not talk about it because you're weak if you discussed it. You're not strong. And because our ancestors endured, they suffered. But I think they suffered so we wouldn't have to.
Right. But like you
And
said,
they struggle so we shouldn't have to. I'm not saying that I think, we've lost some of the balance. I think we've lost a lot of the balance because our ancestors suffered so much. We figured our kids shouldn't. So we enabled and gave, and we created some not so nice children. And I think it's because we wanted to make up for the issue of suffering. But if there's a balance of, you're going to have to endure, because that's just a part of life, and how to endure, even if you don't know how, that's why we have the Carey Williams to help us with dealing with and getting through.
Well, you said a good example. He talked about the trauma and went to the song. So we need
Yes.
to, like, he couldn't even dwell in the trauma of what he saw, but let me be happy. Let me put on this smile. I'm going to be happy about it. And as I'm drinking myself to death. But you know what? I can't process it. I'm going to be the jolly old black man. And so that's, again, it goes back to religious trauma. We're meant to suffer. Oh, you got to suffer.
No, we were supposed to have life and have it more abundantly. That's still the word too.
And so that's going back to, we can't live our true, we have to swallow ourselves as Black people, as a Black culture. And I'm telling everybody, no, we are just as worthy. We are just as worthy. Matter of fact, I think we're more worthy, but I'm a little biased. We're just worthy to be in the space. We're just as worthy to process our trauma, to recognize it. It hurts. And it goes back to the movie, because Remick is Irish and they have their own suffering. The Chinese have their own suffering.
They sure do. And the one thing that, if they're suffering, Remick went to who caused his people to suffer for solace, because they had a common enemy, person that they did not like, the Indians. Yes, I know Native American is the correct terms. We're talking about the movie. The Indians were their common enemy. And even though they were just like they had the savings, they came to save and assist, like their ancestors have been doing from the beginning of time. And they're talking about Thanksgiving and the pilgrim. That's another story for another time. But they still wanted to save, still wanted to help, and they were disregarded.
Disregarded.
Because my thing is, if someone's coming to my house, knocking on my door, smoking, and I mean their body is smoking, you ain't coming in.
He looks just like me. He looks like me. And he's getting chased by some native, he's getting chased by somebody. So let me save the white savior complex. Let me
Yes.
save him. And guess what happened? They, they didn't. The Native American is Nathaniel Arquette as Chayton. They didn't say his name, because
They didn't say, yeah, in the movie he didn't have a name.
as soon as he was like, nope, he was like, bye, this is not our fight. And so again, they tried to be the savior of people that look like them, only to be turned into monsters.
Yes. And we've seen that played out then, and we're seeing it played out right now, right this minute,
Right now, right in our face.
right now, in our face. And
So,
it's disheartening, it's frustrating. But even with all this, the beauty of that that movie, pure poetry, because we could dissect it piece by piece, uh, line by line. There's generational trauma, there's religious trauma, there's people pleasing trauma. It's just so many things. And we had to have you to talk about it and bring it into our everyday lives.
well, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity. And again, this movie is a great thing about generational trauma. But what I'm trying to do and what you're trying to do is normalize it. But there's
Yeah.
nothing to be ashamed of. Living life. There's nothing to be ashamed of it. And it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Just gotta process it. It's anger and sadness. It's okay not to be okay. That's what I would really love to get around. It's okay not to be okay.
It is okay to not be okay. And I said those specific words when in COVID before Let's Talk About You started. I just felt the need, because it was so much uncertainty. We were just told to batten down, close up, stay away from everyone, even your loved ones, because you just didn't know. You didn't know.
Yeah.
And people weren't okay because they had to deal with themselves. They had to deal with their inner demons. They had to deal with everything that they were avoiding or didn't even know that there was an issue. They had to deal with that.
And then when you are locked in and you can't escape your trauma, people are still processing it. And it's okay. It's okay. So again, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, but before we go, I want you to give the tips, reiterate some tips in the event they can't afford therapy. What are some tips you can do at home?
There's several podcasts you could listen to. It's Mel Robbins. She's an excellent person.
She is.
It's okay not to be okay. She's very, very knowledgeable. There's also, you can Google, it sounds funny, but like Black Therapy Podcast. I would also suggest journaling. And I know it seems so simple, but we got to get those thoughts and feelings out of our head. Yes. And then also, if you can always check and call a local therapy office, because we can do stuff on sliding scale too. We understand that some people cannot afford the traditional fee for therapy, may not have the insurance. But that's a good way. You can just reach out to your local therapist to see if they have that availability. But also there is like AA, if there's addiction, if there's NA, there's several groups that can help people. But the thing I want people, when you're like, why am I going through this? Unfortunately, think, why not?
Right.
And guess what? I made it. And sometimes we do from here, just getting out of bed is doing, but sometimes we could do everything. So celebrate yourself. Nothing's too small to celebrate. Nothing's too small to celebrate. And understand trauma doesn't make you or break you. Trauma doesn't make you or break you. It's something that we need to process. But again, I'd like journal, if you like to draw, do some grounding exercises. There are things that, it sounds so simple, but you can Google them. Can't afford therapy, how do I process trauma? Start forgiving that inner child if it happened when you're a child. Forgive it. Can tell that inner child that you are in control and that you're going to be safe. Sometimes it's just putting your hand on your stomach and telling that little Carey it's going to be okay.
Yes.
It's about forgiveness. It's okay not to be, I keep doing that. It's okay not to be okay.
Because we need to know that it is okay to not be okay. We need to know. We need to understand that. We need to hear it, believe it, write it down, process it, put it in your mirror. It's okay not to be okay.
Dry erase markers on your mirror is great.
It is okay.
Positive affirmation. It sounds corny too, but every morning you just wake up and say, I'm worthy.
Yes.
Sometimes you just say, I'm worthy. That's 3 words. I am worthy. There you go.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. I so appreciate you. I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate you talking to us. I appreciate you wanting to be a part of my Let's Talk About You. I appreciate that your commitment to helping not only community, to just helping everyone. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being part of our Let's Talk About You family. And to our listening audience, thank you for joining us. I want to say, of course, and as always, stay blessed on purpose.
Thank you.
Your dream come to life. That is the mission behind Kiki Creations. We're more than a decorating service. We put our all into taking in every detail of your vision and transforming that into breathtaking events. Whether you're celebrating a wedding, retirement, throwing a massive gala, or having an intimate dinner, let Kiki Creations create the moment of your dreams. Celebrate love, laughter, and the moments that really matter with Kiki Creations.